Hey guys, so I just wanted to make a video response to a video I just watched of Zoella's talking about panic attacks and anxiety and my own personal experience with them, I guess. And if you want to watch her video first, it's up here, or it'll be at the end of the video as well. It's not something that I love to talk about or relive, I guess. But I do think it's something that's not really talked about enough, and maybe if it were talked about more, it wouldn't be as scary. So I didn't even realize that I was having panic attacks until like maybe a year into having them, maybe less, I'm not sure. Because the word panic to me in my head just meant like, you know, someone screaming and yelling or whatever, and I'm like, well, that's, you know, that's not me. And it wasn't until someone referred to it as an anxiety attack when I'm like, oh, I understand now. My panic attacks or anxiety attacks would, the best way to describe it would be, it's like it would be like my brain would just suddenly move into slow motion, and my ability to comprehend or understand the things around me was just null, and everything seemed really loud and confusing, and I would feel sick to my stomach and have like rapid heartbeat, and yeah, that was a panic attack for me. And I found it most of the time I'd have panic attacks in like social situations when people were talking to me, and it was like everyone around me was speaking this language I didn't understand, and it was just scary. And there's going to be an awkward cut right now because I filmed the beginning of this and then I accidentally deleted it, and then whatever. Anything could like trigger it. One thing that would get me anytime is if I was in a social setting, which I was always anxious in a social setting, and I said something and the person didn't understand me and they said, "What?" And the idea of having to repeat something that I'd already taken, you know, the last 7 minutes mustering the courage to say was just like, and it's like your head's like, red alert, must repeat something on 1 second's notice. And I was just like, I am going to die. And it just feels like you're going to die. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're dying. And my inability to understand people when I was feeling this way was so crippling that it made me not want to do anything ever. Especially because if people don't understand that you're dealing with this, you can come across as very rude. You just seem like you don't want to be there talking to this person, and you are ready to leave at the soonest chance that you can, which is true. That's how I felt. But it wasn't a reflection on them, it was my own thing. But if you don't understand it, it makes you seem like, wow, this person really doesn't want to be talking to me, and it's like, it's not what it is. So I actually never had panic attacks in high school or growing up. It wasn't until after high school I started developing like confidence issues and depression and anxiety later. And my anxiety was so like largely tied into my depression. It's hard to talk about one without not talking about the other. After high school I just, you know, whatever, went through stuff and just really started to hate myself, like loathe myself. There was nothing in the world I hated more than me. And there was a long time where I just didn't want to leave the house and didn't want to go out and do things with friends. And it just felt like everyone else was normal and I was just, I don't know, bad. I guess that's the best way to put it. So it would feed into itself, and that like, you know, I was so anxious and so depressed, and then I would go out and be unable to have a normal conversation with anyone, and it's like, it reassured me of my self-loathing, I guess. Oh, and being on camera, like, no freaking way. That was a no-go. And like, at the same time, this was during, like, this was while I was doing YouTube, but the idea of being on camera outside of in my own room with my own camera with me editing afterwards was just like instant panic attack, and not to the 100th degree, because not only are you panicking because you're being put on camera, but it's being captured on camera, and that made conventions and like gatherings just impossible. And Playlist and VidCon that year were just like, pretty much I just showed up for my meet and greet and then hid in my room the entire time because I just felt like I am going to die. I can't be around these many people. Last year things have gotten progressively better in terms of depression and anxiety. And as far as anxiety goes, it definitely was a mix between giving it time and a decision to not let it control my life anymore. And just doing little things. And I can remember early on in my decision, I had an interaction with a stranger, and I did it by just pretending that I was someone else. Pretended I was a friend that I had who had never had anxiety before and didn't even understand what it was when I would talk about it. I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna pretend to be this person. And it's like, it's not like I wasn't still, you know, kind of terrified, but it's like just pretending to be okay made it so much more okay. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because I do think it's something that can be addressed as get over it. And I just like to acknowledge that it's not as easy as just get over it, or suck it up, or stop being sad. And it's definitely a struggle when you first make the decision that you're not going to let it control your life anymore. And it gets easier, and then you may relapse. And you just have to keep deciding that it's not going to be something that prevents you from doing things. And something Zoella said in her video was that she decided that she wasn't going to let this control her life anymore because she thought of all the years she wasted just, you know, feeling like she was unable to do things. And I just felt the same way. Like, I'm just so very unhappy like this, and I don't want to spend the next 5 years being terrified of everything. So if you're dealing with anxiety or panic attacks or depression, I encourage you to make the decision to not let it control you anymore and acknowledge that it's not that easy. Like, it's both. But you have to find this balance of letting it be not that easy, be an excuse to never do it, and having it be the decision and not letting the decision be so daunting that you never do it either. Because it is a waste of time to just be controlled by fear. And if you're dealing with depression, very much the same thing. Like, again, you need to make a decision to not just spend the next 5 years being depressed, and also acknowledge that it's not going to be as easy as just snapping your fingers and deciding, but not letting either of them become an excuse to not go out and live your life. And also, your mental health is worth it. So whatever excuse you're putting up, like, I don't have time, I don't have whatever, it's like, I just want to say your mental health is worth it. People so undervalue your mental health, and it's like, nah, I'm just gonna continue being unhappy forever. And I know that sounds harsh because it is a big deal to make changes in your life to try and overcome something, and it is much easier said than done. But I do think if you're at a place where you keep just making excuses, you need to analyze, like, alright, what's my happiness worth? Because it's going to be uncomfortable to make changes. The alternative is just never changing anything and continuing to be unhappy. So, just do it. Yo, stop letting it control your life. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. So, good night and good luck. Oh.